Hi, everybody, and welcome to this mini series called Reclaim Your Field. I am Christina Myers. I'm an energetics practitioner and teacher and mystic translator, bringing you very practical, simple tools to incorporate into your day to day life so that you can start to pull your energy back from all of the systems and structures that have been in place for thousands of years that are at this time moving in a different direction. And so this is the bridge component to get us all into a new state of consciousness and being for us to transition a little more gracefully into what's coming next. Today, I want to talk about the relational and the community field. This is a really important one, and one that is the core foundation of all of the things that I've been talking with you about over the last several episodes. The economic withdrawal, the information diet that we've talked about, the spiritual discernment, all of that is very, very important. But when it comes down to being able to hold that within ourselves, we have to understand that if our personal relationships are built on the same dynamics that the outer world, the outer systems are built on, then it's going to be a little bit more challenging to withdraw from them. And it's in the relational field where all of that internal work either holds or it falls apart. And I see this from time and time again, is people think they're doing some of the things, which they are, but there's a collapse that happens on the inside. So something comes back in that's familiar, and the big work is around, can you hold your center with that change, or are you going to collapse into old habits again? And this is where things become a real test in some ways, is the work that you're doing actually holding. And the good news here and the hard news at the same time is that this is also where the most beautiful new structures are already being built. And so understanding our patterns, and we all have them, these are patterns that we all have unconsciously, these internalized patterns, understanding what those look like and being able to identify them helps us come back to the relational field and to our center to be able to hold those no matter what comes at us. So I want to talk about 5 of the core internalized patterns that we all hold, me included, and this is an ongoing daily practice in being able to identify these and dismantle from them. So the first one's around seeking external approval before trusting your internal knowing. Especially when you are starting on a new path, no matter what it is, if it's, personal relationship or it's a spiritual path or whatever, sometimes we tend to look outside of ourselves. We tend to look at authority figures, we tend to look at partners, institutions, whatever it is, to seek outside guidance. And there's nothing wrong with that, because what you're doing is you are collecting information so that your body and your mind is signaling this is safe and this is okay for me. Okay, so you're doing that so you can trust your own experience. The sticky situation is when that habit of deferring becomes the normal. It is the number one thing that you do, is you keep deferring outside of yourself. And I see this a lot in the spiritual community, because there are people that are out dispersing information, including myself, and it's coming through their lens. It's coming from their place of lived experience, and it's very different for every single person. But sometimes what we tend to do when we are looking outside of ourselves and not trusting our own inner knowing and not holding that center is we're putting these people on a pedestal. And we are thinking whatever they're saying is the absolute truth, and this is the way it's going to go down. And if I just keep hanging on and clinging to every word that they say, they're going to reveal the full thing. And even those people who are, the channelers or the people just receiving that information, they're being, in integrity. They are bringing information forward. They are saying, you got to discern for yourself this information's, right for you or not right for you. But there's still this need inside of a lot of us to seek their approval, to seek their guidance, to seek whatever it is. And I have done this myself, especially when I was starting out on my spiritual journey. There's people that I would look to and think, oh, they have all the answers and they have the ability to channel spirit guides or whatever it is. And so we tend to look outside of ourselves until we get our footing in place. So this is just something to be consciously aware of. The second thing is around diminishing your own knowing. A lot of us say this, well, I don't know, I had this like intuitive hit that this is going to happen, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm making things up. Maybe I'm just, woo woo crazy, whatever. We tend to put this apology out and almost like a disclaimer out before we, say what we want to say. And instead of just coming from, hey, I had this observation, this happened to me, may I share this with you? And, and treating your experience as something valid. And we tend to diminish that a lot in our own experiences. So instead of coming from a place of apology, simply just reframe it to say, I had this experience, this is my personal experience, may I share that? Not to say I'm right and this is the way it's going to be and all of those things, just to share. I know we tend to be afraid of doing that because we're afraid of judgment. We're afraid of people saying, that's crazy, that couldn't happen. And, we can't predict what other people's reactions are going to be to things. All we can do is be in our sovereignty. And that's part of holding the center, is being like, yeah, I'm comfortable knowing that some people are not going to agree with us, and that's okay. That's okay. That's their whole thing. And if they're still in a place of judgment, then maybe I may not want to share that with that person because I know that they aren't in a place to hold that information in a non-judgmental way. So just keep that in mind. The third is around hierarchical relating. This is around organizing relationships unconsciously around maybe who has more status or who has more knowledge or who has more connections or who has more authority, rather than seeking people where you can receive that mutual respect and reciprocal wisdom. The big thing that I have learned over the last few years, especially, is around finding relationships that are much more balanced around that mutual respect. And that takes each individual really doing their inner work to be able to get to that place, to be able to feel safe and seen and heard and respected and all of those things within a relationship. And it's a daily practice because all relationships, no matter if it's romantic, friendship, or, coworker, takes that focus and that work to get there. The next thing is competition over collaboration. This is so toxic and so unconsciously embedded in everything we're doing, especially with women. This is where all of the witch trials and all of the seeding of the institutions have really done a number on women, because the patriarchal system generates internalized competition for approval, for status, for access to resources. And this is one of the most effective tools that the system has created in order to continually keep us in a state of competition. So this is something that all of us have to be very aware of and understand that we're naturally programmed this way. And this is something that we all have to be unprogrammed from because it's just there. It really is. And then the last one is around the need to earn presence. This felt sense that you must prove your value in order to belong, that you must perform, you must produce in order to justify taking up space. And this is such an embedded one as well. And there's just some of you that are just not designed to produce at all. There are, there's some of you who just do not have that energetically. It's not part of your energetic makeup to go out and produce. You were here to just be, and your presence is enough. And that's true with everybody. But we, again, have been put into this cycle of the capitalism mentality, the capitalistic society is about production. And it's about production on extraction of other people, their ideas, their intelligence, their physical labor, all of it. And this is something that a lot of us feel very bad about. And women, especially, have been very much conditioned to not be resting, to not be fully present in their bodies because there is a guilt associated with not producing and not taking care of everybody else. And this is something that's got to change. And takes each of us to identify it and to start changing it in our own internal relationships, for sure. So how do we counterbalance all this? What are some of the things that we can do to counterbalance a lot of these unconscious patterns that we interact with every day? Well, the biggest thing that we can do is building reciprocal communities. So again, if we can build relationships with the people in our lives that are built on mutual respect, that are built on genuine community connections, built on reciprocating back and forth, and the recognition that every single person is uniquely designed and is absolutely essential in bringing together something new to the world, then this is how we counteract the systems and structures. Some of the ways we can do this is around circles. I know I've participated in, healing circles. You hear about healing circles and other circles. The only reason that that's prominent and that's been in many, many cultures for thousands of years is because in a circle, you can see everybody and nobody is standing out as the leader in that group. And so when you're able to actually see each other face to face, you can have open space to hear each other. All of those create an opportunity for people to be seen and be heard. And that's everything that any human wants. They want to be seen and they want to be heard. And that is a great way of doing that. So that's why you see a lot of circles, especially in the spiritual, landscape, is because that's the reason. You can be seen and you can be heard. The other thing that we sometimes do is we hoard our skills and we hoard our knowledge. And that doesn't really help people down the road. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to do a career change. I ended up going to my female boss and saying, hey, I'm really interested in this field. I'd really like to do this. Could you help me? Could you give me advice? And it was so great because she was open to it. Absolutely. I'll give you advice. I'll help mentor you. I'll give you projects that can help you get there. I'll support you if you want to go back to school. That sort of support is so invaluable. And a lot of us are too afraid to ask when we want something. And I think if we would just ask, if we would just have the courage to ask, you cannot imagine the doors that could open. And if I hadn't asked, if I hadn't taken the initiative to do that, then they would have never known that I had any interest in that anyway, right? And sometimes we keep that close to the vest and we don't ask, and then we get resentful. So try and share your knowledge, try and create those exchanges, but also don't be afraid to ask for the support that you need. We talked about food and growing our own food a couple episodes ago, but community gardens are a great way to actually do something that you're creating together and that you're harvesting together. And a lot of new neighborhoods, I noticed, are creating community gardens in their subdivisions, for instance, in order to create that fostering of sharing among the community. And then we've talked about this too. Show up locally. go to the farmers market, go to the festivals, go to the neighborhood meetings, whatever you can do to actually be involved at the local level. That's where you're going to have the most impact, and that's where you're going to see the most impact on you and your day-to-day lives is at the local level for sure. And that's going to become stronger and stronger and stronger is around the community and the people that you live next door to. Frankly, that's where it's going to really be more prominent. So, really the core of this one is around understanding that you're building everything that's coming new. And even those small and daily practices that you're doing right now are making such a ripple effect out into the world. And, every relationship and mutual respect that you're building too is a living demonstration of what is actually possible. And every voice carries equal weight is really a proof of concept for this next era that we're moving into. And that is very, very important. In the next episode, in the final module, I'm going to walk you through some daily practices that you can take so that this interior work that I keep talking about, holding the center and not collapsing, is able to hold together. And, really, this is the one thing that I see most often is that people want the advice, they want they want to go to somebody and be told what to do, but they don't really want to do the work. And this is the one area where I think most people skip. And it's like they want the DoorDash Express of making the actual changes. They just want it to be done for them. But this is the thing that makes everything really sustainable. So we'll get into it in the next episode.